So recently, Phil Spencer did an interview and said some things that's got the internet and the gaming industry a bit in a frenzy right now. I think a lot of people are curious to see what happens, and a lot of Xbox fans are a little concerned, and I think rightly so. Now, this interview came out a couple days ago, and so this is probably old news by the time you're watching this video. Unfortunately, I was doing traveling over the weekend, and most of the time I bring my camera and a little bit of gear with me, but this time I was just, no, I'm not gonna bring my camera gear. I'm just gonna relax and enjoy my trip and not have to worry about doing anything. And of course, it was this weekend that something comes out that I wish I would have had my gear to record it. But I probably could have filmed with my phone or something, but I decided I wanted to wait until I got home and then film this kind of conversation we're having here. So this is probably old news by the time you're watching this, but I wanted to make this for the record and put it out there for history's sake. Something, I think this is kind of a big deal, and I wanted to document it. So like I said, recently Phil Spencer kind of addressed Xbox right now and kind of where they are in the market, especially after the recent kind of backlash with their first party title Redfall, that has apparently released in a less than ideal state, and apparently a lot of fans are not super thrilled about it. Now, discretion, I have not personally played Redfall. I don't have an Xbox. I just see kind of the commentary and the discussion going on in the world from reviewers, from YouTubers, other things like that. And the vibe I've gotten is that it did not release in a very good state, and everyone's pretty disappointed by it. That's what kind of led Phil Spencer onto this podcast to address some of the backlash for Redfall. And towards the end of the podcast, I would encourage you to go watch actually the whole podcast. It was really good. But towards the end of the podcast, Phil Spencer gets a little honest and opens up a bit more than I think probably most shareholders would want him to, and says some things that has a lot of people a little thrown off a little bit. I think that by and large, everyone was kind of surprised by what he said. Even though we all kind of knew it, I think it was different from hearing someone say it out loud. He kind of said the quiet part out loud situation. So I thought for the books, even though I'm a little late on this, I would address it. There's some things in this quote that I agree with, and I think he makes some valid points. And then there's some other things that I have to disagree with Mr. Spencer here on. But I'm going to read the quote. It's a little lengthy, so just hang tight. But basically the quote here at the end of this podcast, he says, we're not in the business of out-consoling Sony or out-consoling Nintendo. There isn't really a great solution or win for us. And I know that will upset a ton of fans, but it's just the truth of the matter is that when you're third place in the console market and the top two players are as strong as they are and have, in certain cases, very, very discreet focus on doing deals and other things, that will make being Xbox hard. For us as a team, that's on us, not anybody else. But we're just not in a position, and I see it out there. I see the commentary that if you just build great games, everything will turn around. It's just not true that if we go off and build great games, all of a sudden you're going to see console share shift in some dramatic way. We lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation, where everyone built their digital library of games. But this idea, if we just focus on great games on our console, that somehow we're going to win the console race, doesn't really lay into the reality for most people. Like 90% of people that walk into retail to buy a console are already a member of one of the three ecosystems, and their digital library is there. This is the first generation where the really big games that they're playing were games that were available last gen, when you think about Fortnite, Roblox, and Minecraft. There is no world where Starfield is an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. It's just not going to happen. We have to go off and do our own thing with Game Pass, with the other stuff we do with xCloud, and the way we build our games. Now, there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot of things that kind of have everyone doing maybe a little bit of a double take, kind of the little, what? Like, what are you talking about, dude? But there are some valid points I think he has in here. But just straight up, right out of the gate, he acknowledges we're not in the business of out-consoling Sony or Nintendo. And that even kind of acknowledging they don't have a great solution to win. There is a part here that is a little interesting. He kind of calls out Nintendo and Sony a little bit for making deals and doing deals that make it being Xbox hard or make it difficult for them to do business or distribute their games or whatever you want to call it. I just find it very ironic that the person complaining about other companies making it hard to be Xbox is the same person who is going out and buying Bethesda with all of its different IPs and going out and attempting to buy Activision Blizzard, even though that's probably not going to go through. I don't think you can really sit here and say that your competition is making it hard for us to do business and to be Xbox when you're out there essentially pulling big IPs away from other platforms. I don't think you can really make that argument. I think it's kind of ironic for him to say that, knowing, especially now seeing the whole Activision Blizzard thing kind of fall through and not really work out. I don't think you can really make that argument that they're out to get Xbox and somehow, you're a victim of the industry right now because people are seeing you as competition. That's what competition does. And right now Xbox is out doing the exact same thing. So I don't really buy that. I think that's a little disingenuous and not really a great comparison for him to make. But then he goes on to address some other things. He kind of starts and talks about how, in his mind, building great games isn't going to sell consoles for you. And this is where I kind of don't really track with him very much. He says, he sees the narrative out there that if you just go and build great games, that things will turn around, and it's not true. Well, not really. I mean, he's wrong in this. I think Phil Spencer is wrong very much in this, but he does make a point here that's interesting. He says, we lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation, where everyone built their digital library of games. When you think about it, he's kind of right. There's some aspects that I agree with. I think that was a very, very rough generation for them to lose. When you think about the PS3 360 generation, you had digital games, you had digital storefronts, people were buying things online, but physical media and physical games were still very much the predominant way people bought games. But now things have kind of shifted a little bit to more digital now. Not really for me. I'm still a huge advocate for physical media. I try to buy most of my games physically as I possibly can. I think the biggest shift is when Sony started making PlayStation Plus required to play online. They always gave you the free games, but it was kind of just you could kind of ignore it if you wanted to. Now everyone's digital library increases all the more you have things like Xbox Live or Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, things like that. There's a ton of games that I wouldn't have played and other people wouldn't have played had they not gotten them through PlayStation Plus. I just finally played Final Fantasy VII Remake, and that was a free game through PlayStation Plus. So I understand, I get what he's saying, and I think that there's a lot of truth there to that, where everyone's kind of library, especially for games that come from those services, they take them with them as they go to the next generation. If you get a PS5 now, I think it expired, but for the first 2 or 3 years, you could get all of those previous games on PlayStation 5 that you would have gotten through PlayStation Plus on PS4. So I get it, and I think that there's some truth to what he's saying here. This is the first generation, I think, where people are taking the big multi-platform games and their library of games over digitally from one console, to the next console. That didn't really happen before PS4. You could, some console, backwards compatible, whatnot, but the digital library kind of just stayed on your console, at least with PS3 and 360. So I get it. I get what he's saying, and I agree that, Phil Spencer, he was at Xbox for a long time, but really he became head of Xbox to try to unsink the Titanic that was the Xbox One, reveal and launch for the first couple years. I get that what he's saying, it was a big one to lose for them, but I don't think that is a deal breaker platform for them. I think they can come back from that, and they should have been able to come back from this already. You look at something like the PlayStation 3, that was a colossal disaster. Everyone knows about that story. But Sony put their money where their mouth is and came back and really revigorated the system. You look at Nintendo, the GameCube was a failure, so they came back and dominated the world with the Nintendo Wii, right? Or with the Wii U is a failure, and they came back and dominated with the Switch. Just saying you lost the generation and now you're stuck on this point, I get what he's saying there, and there's some truth to that, but I don't think it's a clear as a blanket statement as he's making, but that is something to consider, that it is kind of hard to come back when everyone is taking their last gen library to a current gen library, and there's a lot of time, money, and investment in those platforms. He goes on to say, but this idea, if we just focus on more great games on our console, that somehow we're going to win the console race, that doesn't really lay into the reality of most people. Like 90% of people that walk into retail to buy a console are already a member of one of the 3 ecosystems, and their digital library is there. This is the first generation where the big games that they're playing were games that were available last gen. When you think about Fortnite, Roblox, and Minecraft. And so I get what he's saying. I understand it. There's a big shift there. I get with having a past library, bringing that over. That makes sense. I mean, I can tell you now, most of the games that I'm going to play on PlayStation 5, I'm going to probably bring most of my library over when I inevitably get a PlayStation 5. But this is the area I disagree with him, and it kind of goes with the end of this quote here. He says, there's no world where Starfield is an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. It's just not going to happen. I get what he's saying. I just think he's wrong. And I'll explain why. There seems to be, in my opinion, and take everything I'm saying here as exactly what it is, which is my opinion. So put as much salt on this as you want to. You know, I have zero experience running a company of that size. So what do I know? This is just my opinion on this. But it seems to me that there's a couple of different customer bases when it comes to the console market. You've got your casuals, let's call them the casuals over here. You know, yes, they're going to be playing the games like Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, you know, whatever, multi-plat stuff, free to play, whatever you want. They don't want to invest a ton of money, but they have a couple games made that they're playing or their kid is playing. They don't want to invest a ton of time or energy into that. Then you have the other side, which is like your diehards. These are your loyalists who are going to buy only your console and only your games, and nothing is going to change their minds. They don't want to look at any other ecosystem or any other platform. You're always going to have those two. And then you've got the third camp. And the third camp, I think, is where Microsoft and Xbox really need to focus on more. And that is the real hardcore gamer who doesn't care what game it is, what platform it's on. They just want to play every great game out there that they can get. This is the market that, unfortunately, I think Xbox is missing the most. There's no world where Starfield's an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. I mean, he's right. He's right. But that doesn't mean that people still can't buy an Xbox. It seems like he's thinking in some way that in order for them to win this console race, whatever you want to call it, that people have to just completely abandon Sony or Nintendo and come over to Xbox. And it's like he's expecting that as the only option to win. And it's not. And so if he's thinking that people are just going to abandon whatever platform they're on and come over to Xbox, you know, he's right. That's not going to happen. There's no world where that's going to happen. But that's not the only way you can win this. I think he forgets that so many of these gamers, especially, you know, if you want to call them hardcore gamers or fanboys that just want to play whatever's good on the market, they're going to buy multiple consoles. They're going to buy them. If there's great games on any platform, they're going to buy them and play them. If it was the case of you could only have one winner or there's only one console you can have, then sure, it's a hard sell for Xbox. You know, if you could only buy one console and that's the only console you can play on right now, I would agree with them. Xbox, that's a hard sell. It's not super appealing right now. But there's plenty of people in the world that have multiple consoles. It's not getting them to choose one over the other necessarily that's going to get them to win. It's choosing their platform at all. I have a PS4. I also have a Switch, but I don't have an Xbox, and I'm not alone in that. I've got a friend of mine. He's got a PlayStation 5. You know, he very early on, he's had it from almost day one, I think. He's got a PS5, and he just went out not too long ago and bought a Switch OLED. But I don't think he's buying an Xbox anytime soon. And if he does buy an Xbox, I don't think he's gonna sell his PS5 to go buy it. He'll just buy an Xbox. So herein lies, I think, the biggest flaw with his thinking and his argument, and why I think he's wrong in this, is that people will buy your platform. People will buy your console. You just gotta put something that they can play on there. People aren't buying Switches because of Fortnite, Roblox, and Minecraft. That's not where they're buying them. Now granted, you've got your your handful. Sure, I mean, I've got families who have kids in like middle school or whatever, and all they want is just to play Fortnite, and so they get a Switch to play Fortnite. Sure, I will give you that demographic exists. But what's selling Switches is not Fortnite and Minecraft. What's selling Switches is your big titles. People aren't going out and buying Switches for multiplats. They're really not. There's a few, for sure, I will concede that. But by and large, people are gonna pay $70 for Tears of the Kingdom because it's Tears of the Kingdom, not because it's Minecraft. So this idea, if you put great games and great exclusives on your console, that's not gonna sell consoles, it just isn't true. Of course people are gonna buy your platform if you have great games from it. You can't say that if you put good games on your system, good exclusive games on your system, that people aren't going to buy your system. You can't say that kind of claim when you don't have good games on your system. You can't do it. You can't get your main game, Halo Infinite, delay it like a year, not finish the game, release it in a poor state, alienate a ton of your fan base, and then promise features to them on stage that are going to be in the game, and then not put the features in a game, and then wonder why you're not selling consoles. I don't think it's a hard concept to understand. You can't have things like Redfall release in a state that it is and say, well, you know, throw up your hands and say, well, exclusive games don't sell consoles. They do, and they're good. Exclusive games sell consoles when they're the must-play games that everyone is talking about. When people come up to you and say, dude, have you played God of War, or God of War PS4, or God of War Ragnarok? Or, dude, have you played Horizon? Have you played the new Spider-Man? Have you played the new Mario? Have you played the new Zelda? Have you played Metroid Prime Remastered, right? Have you played Metroid Dread? And when these are the games that people are talking about, and they're the must-play games for you, then you have the rep to say that exclusive sell. Nintendo sells almost their consoles exclusively on their big name first party titles, because that's what they got. Sony did not sell all their consoles on based off of third party games. They sold all their consoles off the exclusives and the quality of the platform that they provided to you. That's what they did. Now, while their customer base is there because of those great games, they say, hey, we've got all these other third party stuff too. We got it for you as well. Now, would you rather play there, or would you rather play on Xbox, where really all you have is the third-party stuff? Because you could buy an Xbox to play your third-party games, but you don't get everything, right? You don't get all these other stuff. When you miss the flagship Spider-Man game is on the other console, right? You just can't play it. Or when you have big things like Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy 16. If you're a Final Fantasy fan, if you're that kind of gamer, then of course, what are you gonna do here? And so you can't make the statement of, if you put good games on your system, or if you put exclusive on your system, they're not going to sell you consoles. They will if they're good, and if they're finished, and if they're compelling, and they get people talking about them. Of course you do. That's why your competitors are winning right now. So for him to come out and say, there's no world where Starfield's an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. Well, of course they're not going to sell their PS5s. But you don't need them to sell their PS5s. You just need them to buy an Xbox. You just need them to buy an Xbox. I think if you're looking for people to just leave a platform entirely, then yeah, Xbox, you're gonna lose. You're already losing. You're only 3 years into your generation cycle and you're losing. And I promise you that's not because of Fortnite and Minecraft. But if you can get enough good exclusives and make your platform and your library of exclusive games as good as they can be, then it's not about whether or not you sell your PS5 to get an Xbox. But it's about, hey, I'm already over here on this other platform. Do I want to jump into this other platform over here? And for a lot of people, the answer is no, but it doesn't have to be. You can have multiple consoles. Most main big, core serious hardcore gamers have multiple consoles. That's been the case for years now. More than likely, I'm gonna have a PS5 and whatever Nintendo's next system comes out, whatever they call it. But I wish I could get an Xbox. But unfortunately, I have no reason to. And it's not because of Fortnite, Roblox, and Minecraft. It's because your first party titles are not enough to sell your consoles. And you can't make the claim that first party titles don't sell consoles when your first party titles fail. So unfortunately, Phil, I've got to disagree with you. And again, I say all this, I will play any system that's out there. I don't care what platform it is, as long as the games are good. So I'm not coming at this, I can see people being like, this guy's a PlayStation fan or a Nintendo. No, I just want there to be good games. I don't play good games. I don't care where they come from. I've got multiple systems and multiple generations and multiple platforms. If they're good, I'll play them. I've played the Halo stuff. I like the Halo stuff, but I don't love it enough to buy an Xbox. If you're not a Halo fan, is there anything else there to buy an Xbox for? Right now, no. I don't care about Halo, and I'm not a huge racing fan. Again, my opinion, take it with a grain of salt, but I think for him to say that exclusives and big games don't sell consoles, I think it's just wrong. And I think it's, disingenuous. And I think he's just missing the point that you don't have to get your competitors' customers to sell the console and buy yours. You just need to give them a reason enough to buy your console in the first place. And I hope Starfield's good. I'm not super optimistic about it, but I hope it's good because that's what Xbox needs. I'll probably buy an Xbox for Elder Scrolls 6. I probably will. And what sucks is that'll probably be the only game I really buy it for right now. I wish there was more. I really do. And to see Xbox at this point, only maybe 3 years in, basically concede to their just position in the market is concerning. It really is. I wish they were more competitive. I wish Phil was head of Xbox around the 360 era when they were really competitive. And I wish that they maintained that same sort of mindset and that same sort of drive and competitive nature that this industry needs. I don't want there to be one or two platforms. Competition is good for us, the consumers. And when one of the three is already in this generation becoming complacent, it's a little concerning. I hope that they realize that they do need games on their platform. Really good blockbuster games, because as of right now, there's really not a ton of reason to buy an Xbox. And I wish there was. I want them to be a viable solution for everybody. So it's concerning to see them so complacent with their position this early in this generation. If they come back and if they get their head in the game and if they crank it up and they start putting out games, I remember, I think it was 2017, 2018, they had their E3 press event and they came out on stage and were like, dude, we just bought 5 or 7 studios and we're gonna be putting out games, and we've got this new The Initiative is their new in-house studio or whatever. I don't know how many of those games have come out. I don't know. I know The Initiatives, I think they were doing a Perfect Dark remake or something like that. Where is that? Metroid Prime 4 will probably be released before most of the games that those studios are working on, which is really sad. But they came out and bought all these studios and have all these things, and to see them be this complacent is upsetting. So I really hope they come around. I hope Phil gets his head in the game, and I hope Xbox is around for a long time, and I hope that they're a viable console for a long time, and I hope that competition is still here, and it's not just a 2-horse race at the end with Nintendo and Sony. So yeah, that's my rant. I hope some part of my thoughts were coherent. Again, I want them to be good. I want them to turn this around. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that this conversation can continue. Put your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to know, what the aura kind of around all this is. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion because, in the end, we're all here for the games, no matter what platform they're on. No matter who makes them, if they're great games, most of us want to play them. But yeah, thank you for watching this video and listening to me rant for a little bit. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.